welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast, coming to you live from the America First Warehouse every Wednesday, 4 p.m., here on Long Island, New York. I'm so proud to be a co-host of this amazing show. I'm Steve Levy, former county executive here in Suffolk County, former New York State Assembly member, and I presently serve as the executive director of the fiscally conservative think tank, Center for Cost-Effective Government. I want to give a shout out to Joe the Box, who is the owner and proprietor of this amazing museum for patriots here on Long Island, the America First Warehouse, and that's where we're coming from. A lot of other great events here occurring on a weekly basis. Usually I have David Zare from Real America's Voice as my co-host, but David is often on assignment in Washington, in Belgium, you name it, David is there, so he's covering other things. But let's not your heart be breaking, because subbing for David today is our good friend, a return customer, Greg Vartanian, who is the CEO of Ricadia Capital and Investment. Greg, welcome back. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Steve, for having me on.
And I'm glad that you're wide awake, because a lot of us were up to the wee hours of the morning watching these returns coming in on primary night. And I don't know, was it a shocker or not a shocker? Were you shocked at the fact that the commies are now in full control in New York City, and the squad is growing exponentially with the election of Zoran Mandami's slate? 3 people, he put his neck on the line. He asked the people of New York to vote for 3 communists to win the primary, and they did. Surprised?
No surprise at all. It was all planned. They knew what they were doing. It's clear evidence that they have a system in place where they're going to use every means to get these left-wing communist candidates across the finish line and get them into the federal levels of government as best they can. What's
amazing is that the guys who lost, I mean, 2 of them were incumbents, right? You had Adriano Espaillat and Goldman, okay? They were awful.
Yeah.
They were like as left can be, and still they weren't left enough for the commies. I served in the state assembly with Espaillat, Adriano Espaillat. What an awful human being. This guy was as racist as you can imagine. He'd call everybody else, including me, a racist for being against illegal immigration. He came to America as an illegal immigrant himself. He was part of a Hispanic caucus in New York State that illegally sent out a letter to all the not-for-profits that if they supported me in my quest for governor, they'd be cut off from funding. Now, I don't know if he directly did that, but the caucus did. But that's how awful these guys were. And yet they weren't awful enough for Mandami's crowd, and they beat them rather handily. Espaillat lost by about 4 points to this crazy woman, Chevalier, who we'll talk about. But Goldman's a sitting incumbent, a Democratic incumbent. To tell you how left he was, he ran the impeachment against Donald Trump, and he got clobbered 2-1 by Brad Ladner, the former consumer advocate, who's an awful guy. I think he was the controller of New York City. And now these guys, they've just joined. They're going to be joining the squad. I mean, I don't know which one of those 2 were more remarkable, the Goldman loss or the Espaillat loss.
Well, at the end of the day, in regards to Goldman's loss, it's a clear case of, he got what he was deserved, basically. His loyalty to the party that he gave, he basically got stabbed in the back. And this is a clear indication of what will happen. Whether you're Jewish, Catholic, or Christian, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, once they're done with you, they've gotten their purposes from you, they're going to stab you in the back and kick you to the curb.
Well, isn't it like poetic justice? Because it's almost like you can't feel sorry for these guys. No. You let them in.
Right.
You let the Islamists into the country. You let them, I'm not talking about Muslims, I'm talking about radical Islamists into the country without any kind of vetting. You allow them, it's like you take a dragon as a pet. At some point, you're going to get burned. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. And here's some interesting stats. Jesse Waters talked about it the other day, but I'd long talked about this, Greg. 40% and 30%. 40% is the percent of New Yorkers who are foreign-born, and 30% is the number of whites in New York who remain. And it's not a racial thing. It's a demographic thing that whites tend to split their votes between Democrats and Republicans, but people of color vote, and immigrants overwhelmingly vote Democrat. So the demographics are such that they're getting more and more radical. And where Jews, made 800,000, 900,000 Jews in New York City, there are more Muslims than Jews now in New York City. So the clout that Jews had politically has now dissipated to the point where Goldman goes into a coffee shop, they return his money because he's Jewish. And did Mamdani say anything about it? Did the Islamist communist in office that 30% of the Jewish voters in New York put him into office?
Yeah. Basically, Mamdani just did a little bit of a kabuki dance and basically went on his way. At the end of the day, nothing's going to come of it. Goldman got what he deserved. He like you said, He let the enemy in. And now, basically, they stabbed him in the back, and now they kicked him to the curb. And now he's going to slither back underneath the rock from which he came from. And the next generation or regime that just won last night is going to start taking over and reshaping the party.
I mean, the race, though, that they're not talking about so much, which I think might have been the most remarkable of them all, was this woman, Valdez. She won running against this fellow who is the borough president. That's a big position where everybody knows you. And he was endorsed by Velazquez, the outgoing holder of that seat. Normally, that's a slam dunk. The woman who's been in there for 2 decades is leaving. She endorses this guy. He gets it. He got slammed by her. Yeah. These are candidates, the 3 that won. They're not only against ICE, they want to abolish the police, they want to abolish prisons. They're crazy, Greg. They're crazy.
Yeah, Steve. It's sickening to see that this is the future that they're trying to paint as to what the country should look like. And we've got to stand up. We've got to draw a line in the sand, and we've got to start fighting back. And it doesn't help that, last night it was a clear indication of how the local and state level GOP, especially in New York, really did a number on the Republican Party, and it just allowed the wrong people to advance. And now it's going to be interesting to see what happens in November. But I think the writing's on the wall.
Well, I did hear this from a lot of Republican officials who say, though these crazy commies who elected to New York, it's going to put a strain on New York City. It's going to be very difficult on Capitol Hill now that they start to gain more strength. But they did say Nassau and Suffolk counties in Westchester, Republicans might benefit from this because there might be some backlash. The same way with the bail laws and all the crazy reforms dating back to 2019 and the 2020, where the Nassau and Suffolk started going more Republican because the fear of Mamdani, the fear of the crazy communist overtake in the city could spread, and it helped them in those elections. And I think that might help locally. We'll see. I don't know. Your thoughts?
It's great to be hopeful, right? But at the end of the day, if things continue the way they are, I really don't see much hope. In the governor's race, which is going to be key to what happens going forward, it's one thing if the local and the congressional races place the people that won yesterday. But if Hochul continues to be governor, then, what do we have left?
It's such a tough state. Blakeman's a good candidate, but, when you go into New York City as a Republican, you're not getting more than 30% of the vote.
Yeah.
And it used to be, I remember when I was running for governor for a very short time in 2010, I thought I had a chance as a Republican because I figured you might have had Cuomo and Patterson on the ballot and they'd split, but then they'd split the city vote, but then Patterson bailed out. But even back then in 2010, upstate had some red pockets. It was red. Mm-hmm. You know, you had big companies like Corning and IBM, and they employed a lot of traditional upstaters. Well, guess what? All of those big companies closed because of the horrible finances of New York State. The middle-class Republicans moved out to Carolina and Florida, and the people replacing them are immigrants. So you've got Rochester, you've got the big cities, Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo. They vote Democrat now. Right. So you got, upstate is purple at best. Long Island, by registration, is purple at best. And you have blue New York City. It's tough for a Republican. We got about 20 seconds. You think Blakeman's got a chance?
Well, I mean, he does have a chance, but at this point, it's all going to boil down to everybody that's a Republican coming together, right?
And getting out. They got to be motivated. The Dems are motivated. We haven't been. Let's see if that changes. Yeah. All right, folks, stay with us because next segment, we're going to talk about the impact of these communists winning and what it does to our local schools everywhere, not just in the city, but out here. You will be shocked by what's going on in our schools. Stay with us.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel.
Assets in the next one,
but here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just two entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW, making travel great again.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
I'm sure you guys remember the platinum single, Justice for All, with Donald Trump and the J6 Prison Choir. Well, get ready for round two. We're coming out with Anthem of the Free with High Res and the J6 Prison Choir. It's coming out now. It's pre-sale until December 19th when it drops. Get yours on all platforms, Google Play, Apple iTunes. Get it. It's going to be hot.
Justice for all, our voices ring. The anthem of the free.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see. A symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Levy, former county executive here on Long Island and former New York State Assembly member. David Zare from Real America Voice is my traditional partner over here, but he's on assignment, and we're very fortunate. We have Greg Vertanian from Residia Capital and Investment back with us again. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. And I want to thank Joe DeBox again for allowing us to broadcast these podcasts from this very location on Long Island. And if you want to see all the other podcasts that emanate from this amazing mecca for patriots, go to America First Media and Television. You'll see it all there. You might also want to go to soundmoney.com if you want to invest in gold and metals, because some folks here convinced me to do it. Maybe half a year ago, and I'm glad I did, making some pretty good money on it. If you're concerned about the volatility of the markets, that's the place to put your money. Okay, we ended the last session, Greg, on the communist takeover in New York City and beyond, and now Congress is really starting to grow in strength with these communists. And it has a filtering down effect to the local level. People say, they're communists in the city. It doesn't affect me on Long Island and suburbia. But, folks, you've got to be careful. You have to understand what's going on in our schools. The communists are taking over in the states as well, blue states like New York. So you have the wild left who control the school curriculum, okay? And what did they do just a month ago? The crazies, Greg, in New York State, controlled totally in both houses by the Democrats. They passed a bill. And if we can put it up on the screen there, Bill, the word mother and father is now forbidden. You are not allowed to use the word mother and father in New York State in governmental papers. You have to say gestating parent and non-gestating parent. Absurd, right? You'd think it could never happen. It's not law yet because Governor Kathy Hochul has to sign it or veto it. Now, here's the kick, Greg. She has until December 31st. Do you think there's a chance in hell that Hochul touches this bill before election?
Absolutely not. She's going to punt it.
What do you think she does after the election?
She'll sign it.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think she's going to sign it.
No.
But I think she's afraid to tick off the left before the fact. But, you might be right. She's going to owe her election to the radical left base. Right. She's warmed up with Mandami, gave him most of what he wanted. But, boy, I mean, even your liberal Democrats, I don't think they can go that far. The lefties, of course, will. But that's the state that we are in New York, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you out of our state, that's how nuts it is. You want to find out something else that's really crazy? Did you see this play that was put on in a New York City school? Can you put this asset up, Bill? It's called Stage Fright. That's the New York Post. The New York Post front page. And you see children laying down on a stage, right? Why are they laying down on a stage? Well, they did a play, Greg, and had a rapper rapping along with a song that talked about how they were going to be shot by cops. And that is an enactment of these kids falling to the ground after being shot by the police, and no one in that school said, hey, wait a minute, maybe this is a bad idea. No teacher, no administrator, no PTA, no school board member. That is the state of our schools today in New York, Greg.
It's almost like deja vu, because I remember back in the early 90s where we had controversy like this about, cop killing and this, that, and the other from, rap artists. And, we had a backbone of a government and people who stood up and said, this can't be tolerated. This kind of messaging should never be allowed, whether it's in schools or out anywhere in public. And we had a government that fought that. But today we have spineless people in public office, and they just won't do anything.
Oh, they are. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, those spineless people aren't just in New York City, because they're true believers. They really believe in this crap. But the school board members out here in Long Island, even if they don't believe it, they they back off. You can get just one wokester on the board. They start promoting this stuff, and you get it pushed down on them from Tish James, the Attorney General, and Betty Rosser, who's the head of the state ed. They push down this curriculum. And if you don't think it happens in suburbia, folks, let me tell you about what's happening in my school district, Bayport Blue Point. Someone came up to me a year or two ago and said, Mr. Levy, can you help us? And I said, on what? Well, they have pornography in our school library. I say, that's impossible. This is sleepy little Bayport, Blue Point. This is, it's 85% white, middle class, upper middle class. You got some working class in there, too. Very Leave It to Beaver type of community. And I say, they can't have porn in there. I know these board members. They wouldn't allow that to happen. I said, oh, yeah, look at this. And she showed me some of the content of the books in our school library accessible to 13-year-olds. I warn you folks, if you want to look away, you can look away. But I feel obliged to show you the photo of a picture from a book called Gender Queer, which is in our library. And a part of it's been blurred out. It was in the New York Post. They blurred it. But check this out. It is a photo of two young people performing oral sex on each other, okay? I kid you not. Greg, that is in a book in the Bayport Blue Point School Library. And when we went down there to express our outrage and say, you have to take this out, they said we were trying to censor the library and not allowing freedom of choice for the books that our 13-year-olds want to read. That's the lunacy that is being promoted now in suburban schools, folks, not just with Tommy Mandami.
Yeah, it's sickening. This shouldn't be allowed at all. I mean, it doesn't matter what age you're at in school. You shouldn't be exposed to this stuff, period. If they want to promote this, let them do it in their confines of their home, right? Not in public.
Well, that's the point. So many of these amateur constitutional law experts who take their talking points from the ACLU try to tell you, you can't ban those books in the school because it's censorship and it violates the First Amendment rights of the students. That's nonsense. You always have age appropriateness. Now, you can't stop an adult from going out on the street corner and saying anything they want. You can't stop an adult from buying this material, but you can certainly regulate what children read, what children see. Otherwise, you'd be able to give children pornographic movies. If you took these materials, Greg, and this is the argument we made, take it out of the school library, go on the parking lot or right outside the parking lot of the school, and you handed that material, that photo I just showed you, to a youngster, you'd be arrested for promoting pornography for that child.
Right. And 30, 40 years ago, you had to be 18 or over to be able to access this material, go into these, places
and you
of business.
still do.
And you still do, yeah.
But they ignore it.
Right.
And they say, oh, it's a book we want to put in the library, and if you try to stop us, you're practicing censorship. It's absolutely nuts. There's an agenda. There's a grooming agenda.
Yeah.
They're grooming our kids.
It's sad. It shouldn't be this way at all. We need to have protections for our children and make sure that they grow up to an age where they can actually start making decisions for themselves, but the right decisions.
And if people think it's isolated, understand, folks, the head of the American Library Association at one point was an avowed Marxist. The head of the Chicago Teachers Union, an avowed Marxist. Greg, did you follow what they did on May Day? May Day is May 1st. Right. And May Day is like the Communist Manifesto Day, where communists and labor around the world unite. They do their marches. The Chicago Teachers Association and Chicago schools promoted the school children to cut class, and they paid to put them on buses to go down to protest All Kings Day, to protest Trump, to protest immigration policies. This was patently illegal, what they were doing, using taxpayer funds to do this. I don't see anybody who was prosecuted for that.
Yeah, and if memory serves me correct, for every day that these students are not in school full time, their school budget funding from the federal government needs to be cut.
Yeah.
Right? But, I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, I think the Trump administration is doing the best they can. Harmy Dillon, who is the head of, in the DOJ for civil rights, she's coming on strong. She's suing a lot of them, which is great. McMahon, who is the head of education, is doing a good job trying to bring back patriotism and civics into our schools. Folks, have you ever heard of the 1619 Project? I blanked for a second. Written by a New York Times radical, basically saying that America was founded on slavery. We were founded as a slave colony, not as a place to create a constitution with individual rights and freedoms, but that is now being taught in 4,000 schools.
Yeah.
It's scary, Greg.
They're just trying to rewrite our history and make it out to be where there is no history. The history was, slavery and racism and it's just all evil, when that's really not the case. That's not what happened.
Well, there was some of it, and that's part of our history, but it's got to be contextualized, right? But as George Orwell said in 1984, he who controls history controls the future, because you can rewrite the past, and that's what these crazy communists are doing here in America. Get on it, folks. Fight back. Come back to us in a couple of minutes on the Right Side podcast. We'll see you then.
250 years ago, a nation was born, built on courage, driven by freedom, defined by patriots who stood their ground. Today, we don't just remember that legacy, we wear it. This is more than a shirt. It's a symbol of strength, freedom, and pride. I'm Steve Stern, COO of theflagshirt.com, and I invite you to celebrate 250 years of the United States with us. Wear your pride, stand for something, get your shirts today.
Politics feeling broken? What if you could match with politicians the way you match on a dating app, but based on real values? Meet OpScore from GoUSA, the first ever values-based political matchmaker. Think Match.com for elections that aligns voters with politicians. We score politicians on a nonpartisan scale based on your priorities. Track your politician scores and take our OpScore Challenge survey to match with leaders who align with you at opscore.org. Stop voting blind. Start matching smart. Politicians work for you.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
Corporate transfer, fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won, it's not about what party, it's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
It's me, Joe the Box. And I'm John the Blanket with the America First podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome, everybody, to the James Justice Show, tearing these airwaves apart with all the craziness that goes on in the world.
Welcome to the Patriots podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Shane Jenkins here with another episode of Liberty's Cage.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Red, Right, and True.
We are streaming live on America First Media and Television app.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. podcast. Be free, stay free.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back on the Right Side podcast. I'm Steve Levy, former county executive and New York State Assembly member and the executive director of the Center for Cost-Effective Government. With me today, in place of David Zare, our usual co-host, is our good friend Greg. Greg, thanks for being back with us from, I want to get it right, it is Racadia Capital and Investment, and a great pundit for us as well. Greg, we were talking about wokeness and how the far left and the commies that are coming into place now really run their daily lives through the prism of wokeism. But it's not just in New York City. It's not just with the Squad. It's not just with the Democratic Party. It's worldwide now. I mean, Europe, they wrote the book on woke. And one of the things that I picked up on is what's happening in England. Thank God Starmer, the horrible, woke, worthless, weak prime minister from Labour, is resigning. I don't think his replacement's going to be much better. But he is a bad dude who allowed horrible things to happen to white women in Britain. Roll the tape on this, Bill, so people can understand what the hell was going on in Britain, where gangs of Pakistanis were raping the white British women with no consequences because the officials there, the woke officials, were afraid to be called racist. Go. Can we hear it? Let's get some volume. Let's see if we got it. He's on there. No audio. Okay, well, anyway, play it a little bit more. You know, maybe people can get an idea of what this guy is talking about. But, Greg, this was about, a report just came out which said that up to 250,000, look at those pictures, of white women were groomed and attacked. And what some of the reports said coming out was that the Pakistani gangs, you can come back to us on that, Bill, said that they believed that a lot of these women deserved it, the white Christian women, because they were promiscuous. They weren't pure like the Muslim women who would cover themselves. So they were kind of asking for it. And the worst part is that when these women were coming forward and saying we were raped, we were sexually assaulted, the authorities looked the other way for fear of being called racist. And I'm thinking, what does that remind me of? Minnesota, where Tim Walz and Mayor Fry were, and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, were told by whistleblowers that there were all of these fraudsters ripping off the state with these fake learning centers. And then Ellison and Walz held back the investigation for what? Fear of being called racist. And because they knew the Somalis there were their bread and butter come election time. Two peas in a pod. The woke Democrats in Minnesota, the woke Labor Party in Britain. Unbelievable, Greg. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. And you know, I think now there's people on the Irish and the Scottish side of the UK who are waking up. I don't know if you remember last week, but there was a huge riot where they were burning down parts of the city because of all the illegal immigration and the butchering of people. There was a gentleman that was stabbed and
almost beheaded.
Yeah, almost beheaded, and basically they rose up
by an immigrant,
by an illegal immigrant, right? And you know, they finally band together, rose up. I mean, you know, burning your town isn't the answer, but they had to make a statement, and I'm glad that they did. It's again, people.
Well, I didn't want it to be violent or burnings, but protest was certainly appropriate in these cases, because not only are the British authorities looking the other way and not prosecuting, they're allowing these enclaves, these Muslim enclaves, to create their own Sharia law. And they have something called no-go sections, where the cops and British law doesn't apply. And people think that can't happen in America. And then you hear, Greg, that in Texas, some of these Muslim enclaves, they're trying to create Muslim towns. And, you know, obviously that would be unconstitutional here, but it creeps up. And it's scary. It's not just there. It's starting to happen here.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they're using our Constitution against us, and we need to band together, and we need to put a stop to this before it's too late. I see, what's going on, just like everybody else, and you got to ask yourself, who's going to be the next battle or war we're going to have to wage against? And it's going to be here in our own backyard. And it's going to be against the Muslims.
Well, I don't want to say Muslims. I'll say the Islamo-fascists because, we've got millions and millions of Muslims in America who are patriotic. They're wonderful people. I had the pleasure of, serving with them and being county executive for incredible Muslim communities, God-fearing, good people, family people, very patriotic. But that's your average Muslim who assimilated into America. But what we have now, we have immigrants coming in who don't want to assimilate. You have a faction that want to just create their own enclave, and that's where we have to say no way. And people have to watch what's going on with immigration, number one, where they're just allowing people to come from everywhere. Why would you want to bring in people from a region who claim death to America?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's some people who might be great if you vet them properly, but there's so many people coming in from hostile nations. It's suicidal.
Yeah.
It's crazy to do this. And yet, that's why Dan Goldman and Espaillat got eaten.
Yeah.
By the people they let in, saying, "Oh, they're going to be our friends." They'll be your friends until they're not.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Once they're done with you, they'll kick you to the curb and stab you in the back.
The Green-Red Alliance, which is the red communists and the green Muslims who have nothing in common, now are combining on one thing: their hatred of America. Well, they better both look over their shoulder, because at some point they're going to turn on each other, because they don't have a lot in common other than their hatred of America, right?
Right. Yeah. These guys are going to band together to meet their objectives, and then once they're done, they're going to turn on each other. History's proven this time and time and again.
And we have to worry about too, which isn't talked about enough, Qatar. And I'm so angry that the president took that plane from Qatar. Qatar, they're bad folks, man. These aren't good people. They're totally transactional. Yeah, they'll be your ally if you give them enough money, but they're not your ideological ally. What they're doing, while they're shaking our hands saying they're our ally, they're funding our universities with a tremendous amount of money to bring in these horrible radical professors from the Mideast, poisoning our youth, teaching them that we are colonialists, that Israel are colonialists, that we're dogs, that Israelis are dogs, that Jews are dogs. And it's gaining momentum. They're having an impact. So the Qataris are buying off our foundations, as Saudi Arabia was doing as well. And we're allowing it to happen because, isn't this great, taking all this money? Oh, we just have to put one of their radicals to head up our Middle East Studies Department? Fine with us. Terrible stuff going on here.
Yeah, it wasn't like this 30 years ago.
No.
And like I said earlier, we had a government that had a spine, and we did something about it. Today, it boggles the mind how we're turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what's going on in our own backyard. And I hate to say it, but the war is coming. And it's going to happen here.
Well, it's interesting, the war, because a lot of people think, you're exaggerating, it's hyperbole. But a lot of these democratic socialist groups, these Marxist groups, they actually do have armed chapters where, and we just saw a big Antifa bust. Thank you, Department of Justice, for finally getting these son of a bitches, okay? And one of them got 100 years in prison. That's what has to happen. Christopher Wray, the former FBI, there is no Antifa, it's an idea. Well, who's busting Andy Ngo over the head with a bat? It's Antifa. They're getting their money from somewhere. And the DOJ, this DOJ, Trump's is finally going after these guys. But they are armed, ready to go, and dangerous. So they're looking for the resolution. That is the Marxist philosophy worldwide. It is an armed revolt. They're laying the seeds. They're planting the seeds, laying the foundation. But that's what they do to Soros's money. And they do it in a clandestine fashion. And they wear their black and their mask. And that's where they attack ICE. They attack our foundations. They kick out a Jew from a coffee house. This is their MO, right?
Yeah. And it's not going to stop. If we don't do anything, it's not going to stop.
They're gaining momentum, which is the scary thing. So speaking about, letting things slide through, in our next segment, we're going to talk about how the left and the Biden administration, aligned with the intelligence agencies and the media, helped Anthony Fauci along. Anthony Fauci, who headed up our health systems and our infectious diseases programs, basically outright lied to Congress. He lied to the American people that he wasn't funding the gain of research projects where they were manipulating the coronavirus and making it more potent. He did. And when Tulsi Gabbard left a couple of weeks ago, she opened up the files, and now we have the proof. This guy was lying. He was funding it. And then when we started to catch on, he was threatening doctors that if they said the leak came from the lab, that they would be kaput. So stay with us, Greg. This is going to be a fascinating discussion. We'll see you on the next segment in 3 minutes on the right side.
Me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
Okay, folks, you're back in our last segment of On the Right Side podcast, coming to you live from the America First warehouse here in Ronkonkoma, New York. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your co-host. I'm the former county executive here in Long Island. I'm a former New York State Assembly member. And I'm also the executive director of the Center for Cost-Effective Government. If you ever want to see the white papers we write about, from saving Social Security, from the need to have more school choice or the need for spending caps, check us out at centerforcosteffectivegovernment.org. You'll see all of our stuff. You could also catch all my writings, my commentary that gets published in Newsmax, in the Washington Times, Washington Examiner, many other places. That's stevelevy.info. David Zaire is usually my co-host. David's not here today, but our good friend, David. Oh, great. No, that's David. You're great. Greg Vartanian is here, an investor and man who does a lot of capital lending. We've been talking about a lot of things today, Greg. And we left off the last segment talking about Fauci and the dump that Tulsi Gabbard did, showing that he was lying when he said he wasn't doing the funding of the gain of research. And he did. In fact, what was ironic is Obama had a ban on it back then. So that's why Fauci had to do an end run and give the money to a third party run by this guy, Peter Daszak, who was a truly horrible human being who lied about it from A to Z, lying when he said that he didn't fund it. And then he was punishing the truly honest healthcare people who said, no, we think it's coming from the lab. He threatened to cut off their funding, according to Gabbard, And, it just goes to show, how institutions from Fauci, the faith in institutions have so deteriorated in large part because of what he did. You think there's going to be any repercussions here?
Well, I hope so. I think he's going to be brought back into appear before Congress again and answer for what has been newly discovered. And I hope, he's committed downright treason, right? And if it had been 200 years ago, the sentence would have been death, right, for committing treason against the United States.
Well, a million people died. I don't think it was intentional on his part, But the fact is he intentionally bypassed our guidelines saying don't do this stuff and gave the money to a third party knowing it was going to go to Wuhan.
Yeah. To me, that's a form of genocide, right? Killing people.
Again, I don't think it was on purpose, but you set it in motion. Yeah. There's got to be some ramifications to that, right? At least a tarnishing of this squeaky clean image that you had, that you're being put on the front of Vogue magazine and lauded by all the lefties in America, right? Just crazy.
Yeah, it's pure evil at the end of the day. What happened and what he's done, and those around him who approved it.
The left talks about kings and threats to democracy. You know what a threat to democracy in my mind is, Greg? When an unbiased professional in the healthcare industry says, hey, we want to write a letter or make a statement that we think it did come out of the Wuhan lab, and then they can't get it published on Twitter. They can't get it published on Facebook because the American government pressured those institutions to take it down. That's a threat to democracy. The threat to democracy is what goes on in England, where 30 people a day are jailed by the leftist government for posting things that the government doesn't like, right?
Yeah.
It's upside down. It's the right, it's the left that is thwarting democracy in these ways.
Yeah. These people are not going to stop at anything to keep pushing this agenda to turn this world upside down. And it's unfortunate that we have countries that are just turning a blind eye to this and saying, yeah, you know what? As long as we get what we want, we're happy.
Well, a lot of these countries have gone so woke that common sense and truth is the first casualty, right?
Right.
Hey, we got about 7 minutes here. We got to get into what's going on in Iran.
Okay.
I loved what the president did early on. taking it to the Iranians, because in my mind, it's an existential threat if they get a bomb. First guy to ever really take it to them, say, we're not going to allow them to get these bombs. I loved it that he bombed them. And then he stopped. And then, we got a little spooked by oil prices and, it lingering on and the impact it might have on the election. And now he's entering into a deal that a lot of people think is Obama Part 2. And there are some subtle differences. It might still wound up okay. But, I listed a dozen lessons from this Iran policy. I'm going to rattle them off real quick. 1, never enter into a war that you're not committed to finishing. 2, never broadcast to your enemy that employing ground troops is off the table, even if you don't want to use them. 3, never bluff 30 times that you're going to use military force without pulling the trigger. He did early, but not after. 4, never let short-term domestic volatility affect your long-term quest for success. 5, never negotiate the terms of your agreement in public. 6, never negotiate, as J.D. Vance did, on the theory that words don't matter, only action does. Words matter because you got to get the parameters of your deal to see if they're violating it or not. 7, never try to please all the people because you'll wind up pleasing none. 8, if you enter into a war, win it. 9, never try to spin an agreement into something it's not when it will be disclosed several days down the line. 10, never let your opponent believe you're more desperate than they are for the deal. 11, never enter into the war without laying the foundation first with the American people, what it's all about. And 12, if you have your opponent on the ropes and ready to fall, don't let them off. Right. So we're at this stage now where we've got an agreement to talk for 60 days. The assets are going to be that are frozen are going to be freed up. But we hear different things, right? Well, we're not going to let them freed unless we get the uranium. Well, are we going to get the uranium? They say there's going to be inspectors. Big deal. They always had inspectors. They lied. If there's American inspectors, I'll feel better. But okay, you're going to have an inspection. What happens after you find the dust? Is an agreement we take it out? I don't know. You don't know. What's the story with this thing?
So I think at the end of the day, the midterms coming up put a lot of pressure on the president to cut a deal of some kind to where it gives him a pause. It gives everybody a pause, basically, to let the dust settle and figure out.
No pun intended. Yeah. The dust settle.
So that he can gauge what's going to happen after the midterms.
Okay,
right?
I think that might be part of it, and maybe this is a master plan to please. For Trump's perspective, everybody says Iran wants to stretch it. Maybe Trump wants to stretch it till after the midterms. Then he says, hey, it's this way or we're blowing you to smithereens, and I don't care about gas prices or anything. Maybe. But here's the big question, Greg. Are the assets, frozen assets, going to be freed before then? Or are they going to be held? If he doesn't give Iran any money before then it's a brilliant strategy. If you give them the money beforehand, they're never giving you the dust.
Yeah.
That's my concern, and that's what it comes down to. When do they get the money? When do we get the dust?
Yeah, I think the president was clear. They're not going to get a dime until certain things come into place, right? And that's the best strategy he's got going right now.
What is it? What comes into place? Is it just getting an inspection? Who cares? Or is it getting the dust out? You can't give them money unless we get the dust out.
No, totally agree. But I think at the end of the day, it's getting some of the initial key points in place, right? Getting the Strait open, getting gas prices down or oil prices down, and then getting them to come to the table and agree not to fund Hezbollah. And
there you go. And I think Rubio is exactly right. We have to separate Lebanon from this. Why would we allow Iran to tell us that Lebanon is part of this deal when they fund Hezbollah, right? And they tell Hezbollah, fire rockets over to Israel while we're negotiating, and then if Israel retaliates, we'll say the deal's off. Insane that we would let them do that. It's got to be bifurcated.
Yeah.
Agreed?
I agree, totally.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes to go. I want to bring up this one thing. Nick Laloto, a local congressman, did something brilliant the other day in my mind, Republican. He told the sanctuary villages and towns in the east end of Long Island, the Hamptons, that you guys put in place a new provision that says your police cannot cooperate with the federal authorities in getting out of here the criminal illegal aliens. Do you know what he told them, Greg? He said, you do that, you keep that law, you're not getting any of my earmarks that go to the village. I thought it was brilliant. It's the first time I've seen somebody not just talk about countering the sanctuary cities, but trying to do something about it. And if every Republican mirrored this, you see how fast it would change. I don't know. What do you think of this idea?
Oh, it's great. It's long overdue, right? This should have been the policy of the GOP and the Republican Party here in New York for years, right? And you know, it's great that, you know, that's the position he's taking verbally. I just hope he follows through on it, right? You can't have idle or empty threats, right? And let him set the example for the rest of the GOP in the state to start taking a stance and build a spine, a backbone, and put your foot on the ground. Right?
Well, I'll tell you, I can't believe that all these years later, that there hasn't been a court ruling that sanctuary cities, number one, violate the supremacy clause within the Constitution, and number two, are examples of local officials committing crimes by aiding and abetting illegal aliens, and that's a crime. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. So we got 30 seconds. Anything to wrap up with here, Greg?
It's, you know, basically at the end of the day, we have an uphill battle. We have a big fight. You know, with the midterms, we've got to get out there and we've got to vote, right? And we've got to get more of our Republican Party candidates in the House, in the Senate, right? Thune, sorry to say, it's got to go.
Well, they can't. You can't sit on your butt, folks. The Democrats are motivated. We have to stop Mandami from spreading all around the country. We'll see you next week on the Right Side. Thanks for joining us.